So here is the rapper Soulja Boy defending himself after criticism of him of his support for Donald Trump, and he said Trump put money in his pockets. Listen to this.
They pay me a bag. Obama ain't never put no money in my fucking pockets, nigga. Kamala ain't never put no money in my pockets, nigga. Trump put money in my pockets, nigga. My are trying to say something about me performing at the crypto ball party. Did Kamala call my fucking phone? Did Obama call my motherfucking phone? Did any of you call my motherfucking phone? Oh, God.
All right, take it down. Here is Snoop Dogg in 2017 talking about people who were performing at Trump's inauguration. This is Snoop in 2017. Listen to this.
So ain't nobody gonna perform for Donald Trump, huh? Which one of you jigaboo ass is gonna be the first one to do it? I'm waiting. I'm gonna roast the out one of you Uncle Tom ass for doing it. Which one of you gonna do it first? Osborne's the one that performs for himself.
I want to point out when he performed at one of the Trump events, Snoop did one of his songs that like has the M word all through it, and it looks like the audience had a really good time singing along. And then here is Nelly, St. Louis's own Nelly, defending performing for Trump. Listen to this.
We're giving you this backlash because you are propping up a white supremacist.
I would ask them to show me where he's a white supremacist, and here's the thing. Okay, I get it. He did say if you don't vote for me, you're not black, right? Oh no, that wasn't him. That wasn't him. Hold on, I'm trying to think. Hold on. He did create.
I know where you're going.
He did create the crime bill in the 90s, which said that if you get caught with 5 grams of crack, you do a mandatory 5 years. That had mass incarceration. I think even the Vice President Kamala spoke on that part that said that the crime bill played a huge part. He didn't do that. Let me see. What did he do? I'm trying to think. The white supremacist. Hold on. I'm gonna get to it. Okay. He did not rent to black people. What was it, in the 70s or the 80s? Is that what they said? And like, okay, is he written to him now? So nobody's allowed to change, right? See, here's the thing. So we can talk about past, but we never want to talk about our past. If our past get brought up in our community for a lot of what our men did, we always call it rehabilitation. Yo, these young brothers, we've been through a lot. I know I've been through a lot. If my past was what was going to prevent me from winning today, I wouldn't be here. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying that he ain't got some ways.
Take it down.
That's not what I'm saying.
I want to do some quick fact checking. Nelly would never come on this show or engage with you, Jemar. But just a quick fact check. The 94 crime reform bill didn't put in those sentencing disparities that he's talking about. That was the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act under Ronald Reagan, which included this provision that created a disparity between federal penalties for crack cocaine and powder cocaine offenses. That was under Ronald Reagan in 1986. I also want to point out the most insidious part of the crime reform bill, which was terrible, was the 3 strikes and you're outlaw, which Joe Biden didn't write. That was written by a Republican in Mississippi named Trent Lott. So a lot of folks, forget that as well. And while it is true that Joe Biden did say in an interview with Charlemagne, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, that was terrible. He shouldn't have said that. He apologized within a couple of hours. And I called him out on it, and I was quoted in the New York Times, the Washington Post about it. He was called out, and he apologized within hours. But let's not forget that Trump said black and Latin folks who don't vote for him need their head examined, and never apologized. Let's not forget Trump said, and I'm paraphrasing here, Jewish folks who don't vote for him show great disloyalty. He never apologized for that. And I can go into all the policy and stuff like that, but just a little bit of a fact check because Nelly doesn't appear to really know where some of those insidious policies came from. Yeah. But Dr. Tisby, your thoughts, brother, your thoughts.
There is so much to unpack here. First of all, none of these brothers gave anything coming close to a justification for why they would perform for and in support of this man's inauguration. Soldier Boy straight up said it was for the money. Minstrels perform for money. Artists perform out of principle. And so it was clear that his only guiding principle in this case was money. Nelly did a masterful job of deflecting the question. I don't know if he should run for political office as well, but he never addressed truly Trump's racism. And all of these artists, we can talk about Snoop, we can talk about Nelly, we can talk about Soulja Boy, Rick Ross was there. All of these artists came up and got put on by Black people. And the overwhelming majority of Black voters did not support this president. And that was for reasons. That was for reasons of bad policy. That was for reasons that he's anti-democratic. And of course, that is for reasons of racism. And so, unfortunately, none of what they said to justify their participation in this holds really any water.
But let me ask you, are we surprised, though? Are we surprised at all that I'm not surprised at Snoop. I'm not surprised at Rick Ross. I mean, I don't mean to go deep through the whole history of hip hop, but the elevation of extreme capitalism and take whatever, get rich, get money, the whole bit, that really is, in the rise of the 1980s and 1990s hip hop. I mean, are we surprised? Should we be outraged? And furthermore, we all know Chrisette Michelle's career was destroyed, but will this have any impact whatsoever? I don't know. I mean, people didn't care about R. Kelly marrying Aaliyah, even though there was a marriage certificate posted in Vibe magazine. Will this have any impact, and are we really surprised?
I don't think we're surprised, but we are disappointed. I think that's just going to be a mantra that we have for at least the next 4 years. Not surprised, but disappointed. Now, listen, I grew up in the 90s. I was listening to Snoop Dogg when I was a teenager, and they say in those years, 14, 15, 16 years old, that music imprints on you. So it is not surprising, but it is disappointing, right? We've all bopped to their music at one point, even if it was 10, 15 years ago, it still holds a special place. So I don't think it is wrong for people to feel some type of way about them doing it. But we got to also remind ourselves that finances are not liberation. Money does not bring about the revolution, money by itself, and you getting your own money. We have to have a sense of collective responsibility here. And of course, for somebody like Snoop, for in 2017, for him to call people jigaboos for performing, I want to know how they got to him. I mean, is it not surprising, at least given those statements not too long ago? But we do have to address this aspect of we cannot buy into the lie that just a paycheck is what we need when what we need is true liberation. And that means standing up against anti-democratic, authoritarian, white supremacist forces like this new regime is bringing in.
Do you think it'll have any impact on their careers? Or it's not going to be Chrisette Michelle? They're too popular. They're too famous.
Right. I think they're in a different level of popularity than Chrisette Michelle. I think there's some sexism and misogynoir at operation, where a woman is targeted differently than men. But yeah, they have this legacy. They have this catalog of music. Are you not going to play their songs at the wedding, at the picnic, at the family reunion? I don't know. I think it will have short-term repercussions, but we have really short memories, and that's going to be a really big problem in much bigger ways than a favorite or a nostalgic musical artist performing at an inauguration.
I think what's interesting about the rappers that we mentioned is that they are who they are because of the Black community. And Trump, whether it's the Patriotic Education Act, whether it is him being the gatekeeper of blackness when it comes to Kamala Harris, whether it's his minimal amount of black judges that he appointed, minimal amount, whether it's the racist attack on President Barack Obama that he never apologized for, whether it's according to people who worked with him that he used the N-word, but what does it say? I'm just wondering that maybe, it's the greatest dream of 1990s hip hop capitalism that their thing is about money. And so, hey, like James Brown once said, I'm not selling out, I'm selling in. So maybe it's that on steroids. That really concerns me because if they're willing to do that, I'm assuming Snoop doesn't need the money. I'm assuming Rick Ross don't need the money. I'm assuming. So if they're willing to do that, rich, powerful, somewhat powerful and famous, what is the average person going to do on their block in their community? What was the average person going to do if you offer somebody a little bit of cash, wave the cash in front of them? Who are they willing to sell out? Who are they willing to harm? So I'm just curious your thought of maybe this has evolved. Maybe as black folks, that the NAACP would blast Richard Nixon for this language around black capitalism, and that they would say this is the worst way to liberation. Of course, it didn't work out because the black unemployment rate was skyrocketed and so on. But what are your thoughts on this? That maybe the color line has shifted and it really is this money line.
Well, so money has always been part of the mix, and as you well know, because you study history, you can't really separate green and black and white. So a lot of people say racism is America's original sin. In my first book, The Color of Compromise, I said, well, maybe racism is America's original symptom, and its original sin is greed. Because what lay behind race-based chattel slavery is the property principle. And why were white Southern plantation owners fighting so hard to keep enslavement as a practice? Because it had to do with their bottom line. They were making money off of it. And so these two things, race and greed, race and money, are interrelated. So I think we shouldn't fall into some sharp binaries to say, well, it's not about color at all. It's only about money. Well, understand that money's always been in the mix around racism. So, for instance, when you have people who have historically been denied financial opportunities, economic opportunities, offering money is always going to be a temptation because you're dealing with the people who haven't had historically. Now, there are always exceptions, right? But I would also be quick to point out that historically, what little we did gain was often taken from us. Of course, we can think about Tulsa, but let's also think about Memphis. What got Ida B. Wells into her investigative journalism career was the lynching of her good friend, who was a black grocer, whose grocery store was doing well enough that it was competition with a white grocery store owner who wanted them gone and found any excuse to do that. So it was partly because they were prosperous small business owners that they were targeted for lynching. So even when we do get a little, that gets taken. So it's always going to be a temptation. So what we need is a moral founding. What we need is to remember the Bible says you can't serve two masters. And interesting that God juxtaposed, you can't serve God and mammon, the God of money, the God of wealth, the God of prosperity, because could have chosen any other kind of temptation. But those two, you can serve God, you can serve money. Well, that means at some point, serving God is going to come into conflict with your bottom line. And what will you choose? That's the moral forming that we need to do as a people.
I hear that. Interesting times ahead, right? Interesting times. But I believe we're going to be all right. There really is no other choice. I believe we're going to be all right.
No other choice, yes. I would be quick to say, as you would probably agree, I get a little irked when people say, well, we've been here before. As a historian, we understand context. We have been here before, but also we haven't. We haven't had social media. We haven't had this hyper concentration of hundreds of billions of dollars in a certain class. We haven't been through this in the 21st century. And I would argue that for the Black community, we're going to have a steep relearning curve. So, yeah, we're built for this in a way because we've had a history of oppression. But I wonder if, especially among younger generations, we have sort of gotten out of shape. We have to rekindle that muscle memory. And it's there, but it won't come back without a struggle. So I don't want us to be sanguine in this. This is the what MLK said, the fierce urgency of now. We got to pull out all the stops and we got to be prepared to discipline ourselves in community for the work of justice. And it's not going to be easy, but yes, you're right. We can get through it.
No, but I think it's really an important point. This is different. This is different. I mean, I've had historians come on this show saying, you know, a convicted felon going back to the White House. Even when Grover Cleveland went back to the White House, he wasn't saying the things that the current president said. I mean, this is different. We also have more black people in Congress like we've never had before, which is a lot different. That could be, you know, more people can vote, for example. That could be a good thing. But there are some serious nuances. In many ways, it is unprecedented. And presidents who failed before, and presidents rather who tried to overturn democracy, because there were other ones who tried to do it, they kind of just faded away. They kind of just went away. You know, they didn't consider, you know, Richard Nixon just kind of went away. He became kind of a laughing stock. Others who tried, they just kind of, you know, none got back into power. That's what's very, very interesting. So we have to be aware of the nuances and the differences to know how to combat it, because this is very unique, very, very unique. So, but I still got faith.
Yes, yes, yes. We listen, like you said before, we don't have any other choice. We don't have any other option. We don't have the luxury of cynicism or apathy. So let's get it through it together, brother.